Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 57 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate, and I am super excited if you are joining us here on this live tonight, or if you are catching it on the replay. As always, if you think any of this content could be helpful or relevant for anybody, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Now, for those of you who have been following this week, we have just started our full 3-week series on mental health. And we are going with all different aspects, from doctors to people who are going through the journeys themselves currently, or are winning right now with their journeys, and they have started to seek treatment over time for some of those mental health issues, and really looking at mental wellness as a way of life, which we all should. So with that being said, I want to welcome my guest, Margaret Schultz. Margaret Schultz is a mental and behavioral community care coordinator. She is also a friend, and she is also my fellow Finding Your Fairytale princess. Well, I guess you're Pocahontas for those that don't know. And I'm Snow White. And we'll drop a link about the documentary that the both of us are featured in later on in this show, so you can learn a little bit more about that project. But Margaret, I am so happy that you have taken the time out tonight to really share, because your story is so real. It's so real and can connect to so many people. You're in high school, and as we talked about, wanting to be in the armed forces at the age of, what did you say, since you've been 17?
17. Mm-hmm.
And so from that point, here you go. You're gonna join the Army. So can you take it away from that point?
Sure. Yep, I joined, it was my junior year. I was set on joining the Army. I waited quite a while to get my MOS, or my job placement, as a combat medic. I had hopes of being a nurse. And from there, I joined the life. My first, I think, big mission was Haiti relief. Learned a lot about culture and how little aid there really is across the world, and what we are providing and how minimal it is. It was very eye-opening for me I think I was 20 at the time, 19, 20. And from there, I continued in school. I was getting my nursing degree, and then I was deployed in 2013. So 2013, I was a combat medic attached to an engineer company. Great guys doing hard work. The deployment was a deployment. It was exciting. It was dull. You missed home, all kinds of things. But I didn't realize, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, a lot of our soldiers, at least I can say, would agree that at the time, I can honestly say I would have fought you tooth and nail if somebody told me I had PTSD. I love deployment. Deployment, to me, I was valued. I had a role. I had people depending on me. Everything I had worked for was being used. So I didn't see any red flags until they told us we were coming home. And then with that is a little fear and panic and a whole lot of guilt, because you have a family at home waiting for you to come home. And I was looking at ways to stay.
So how long were you there?
I was there 9 months.
Okay, and so the 9 months that you were there, overall for mental health, you felt very mentally healthy.
Yes, totally in control. Doing missions every day.
Mm-hmm.
Mine look a lot different than the guys. The guys had construction sites. I was being tasked out to different companies, going on missions.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, as a flight medic. So I was learning a lot. I felt very valued.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't miss anything. I didn't want to miss anything.
And then it was time to come home. And so right away, as they said it was time to come home, you started having like reservations, or was it like a little bit of a buildup of anxiety?
It was like everyone was counting down, or I felt like everyone was counting down the days until we got home. And every time somebody would say it, it was like a pit in my stomach, because as tough as deployment was, as hard as it was, and there were like the worst days, home sounded worse. Home, I didn't have a plan there. I was scared of being separated from my guys because they became
your family,
everything.
kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at no point of those 9 months was not one of them within 2 feet, an arm's reach away. They're right there. You always have each other's backs. So the idea of us going home and everyone breaking off and going back to I don't even know that at the time I thought of it that deeply. I think it was just that pit in my stomach that I had more to do. I was important here. I needed to keep doing what I was doing.
Okay. So you get to that point, it's time to come home. The pit is in your stomach. You get home, and then it's like, oh, your mom, your dad, everybody's there. It's back to not real life, but a life here, normal everyday living. And what started going through your mind, like right when you got home and all that?
Day 1 and 2, it was all joyful, because there's so much going on. And we came home the day before Christmas. So there wasn't a moment of time that you weren't doing something with a ton of people and not enough time to really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew right away, even within those 2 days, I like sleeping in a bed, couldn't do it. I ended up sleeping on the floor next to my bed, not because like my bed was uncomfortable. It was just too big of a space. I was used to sleeping in, we had little bunks. If that were depending on where we were, but it was just weird stuff. I noticed I just wasn't comfortable. Everything felt extravagant. Like I didn't need all of these things. And why did I ever own all of this clothes and all the things that started happening? But the first couple days were great. Totally in love with being back with my family. And then after that excitement wore off, and a lot of it was guilt, because I knew that the last few months that I was there, I was working and really not wanting to come home. So I felt very fake, being like, oh, I'm so glad to be here, even though a big part of me is wishing I was still there. So a lot for me was just, I felt like I was lying to my family. I felt like I wasn't being honest about what was going on.
And then you said re-engaging back into the employment circuit. How did that go? That was another red flag for you?
That was huge for me. That was one of the telltales that something was a little more wrong, with where I was mental health wise, because I lost all value. I felt like I had just left a country that every move I made seemed to matter. I was needed. And I came home and I was, finishing up school and things like that. But I knew I had the capabilities to literally save lives, and I was a secretary at a hospital. So it didn't matter if I showed up to work, life still moved on, and you could do things that nobody would notice, and all that importance. I sat there knowing that even when I finished my nursing degree, I would never, ever again in my life be able to do what I knew I was capable of doing. Not without repercussions, knowing that I could place advanced airways, I could perform minor surgeries, I could do all of these things, and I've seen all of these things, and I'm filling out Medicare cards, and I'm taking, scheduling, and it just, I felt like I lost all value. I felt like nothing I did mattered anymore. Nobody would really care if I came to work. Nobody would really care if I showed up to this party or that one, because all of these things were happening while I was gone. That didn't matter.
Right. And go on.
So I guess for me, it was just that I began to lose value in myself and how I viewed myself very, very quickly, where I just wanted to go back. I wasn't adjusting right. And then it was hard to tell people that, because they don't they didn't get it. They didn't understand why everything's better here. But if you have no self-worth here, it's not better. So it was, I think the biggest push for me was probably the way I was communicating with my mom. My mom and I have always been very close, and she would talk to me about things, and I couldn't even, I was so impatient with her, and I'd snip, and everything was bickery. I didn't even like talking to people about things because their problems or their complaints just seemed ridiculous to what I'd just seen. I thought that was crazy. You're wasting my time. I mean,
right.
I needed help reevaluating my views and understanding that these people that love me, they don't know what I've been through. So that's when I went to the VA. I went to the VA for counseling because
right away when you saw those red flags, I don't mean to interrupt you, but once you saw those red flags, did you decide to like make a phone call? Did you decide to just walk into a place? I mean, you've put all these things together, this feeling devalued, not getting along with your mom, the presence of being here wasn't exciting to you. You wanted to be back there. When did you say, I'm going to be, or what was that breaking point that said, I'm getting help because there's something not right?
The breaking point was the communication. And mind you, I was still in contact with some of my guys. Some of them were kind of feeling the same way. And I'm, as their medic / mom, I was always telling them, like, if you feel that way, you got to go get help. You got to talk to somebody. So I was saying it to everyone else. Like, if you're mad all the time, you got to talk to somebody. If you're having nightmares, you got to talk to somebody. Right. And I kept saying it. And I was just sad all the time. I was sick all the time. I had headaches all the time. I was just sad. And I finally did I got to stop telling my guys to go see and talk to somebody. And I'm not. And I actually only talked to my primary care. It was just when we come home, you do like a 45-day evaluation where they just make sure everything's going well. And I finally decided to stop lying on the exam where it tells you, in the last few days, have you felt, this, that, or the other thing? Well, you always know what to circle. You know the right answer.
Right.
But it wasn't the truthful answer. And it wasn't until I finally did the survey with my primary care doctor that I was like, she's like, you're hitting way too many of these red flags. I think you should talk to somebody. And so I started with a therapist at the VA.
Okay.
And I don't want to discourage anybody from therapy because I am a total advocate for it. But it was not where I needed to be at that time. For me, I really struggled. I'd seen this woman a handful of times, and I tried, and I just felt like everybody and her wanted a terrible war story. They wanted me to say all the blood and the gore. But to me, which is different than a lot of people, that was my job. That wasn't the broken part. My job was, the blood and the gore.
Right,
That's what I was there for. So telling her that and her telling me how to cope with that wasn't my issue. My issue was missing my value and my importance, and knowing that our team, our squad, our platoon, all the friends that I'd become family, we were spread out, and we are still spread out with various states, and we're not, a foot away from each other anymore. That was gone. And that's not something I would fix sitting in a room with her, explaining to her, the military, because bless her heart, every time you'd have to start from the top and tell a full story. And I just wanted somebody to understand or tell me why I was lashing out so much or why I felt so broken. So I don't think I really became very self-aware until I started talking to groups. Like, I wasn't part of the group therapy, but my job at the time I worked at the VA, I started working at the VA, and it was helping to facilitate these groups. And I didn't join the groups as somebody, you
joined the group as you were the facilitator.
But I started getting so much out of it that I was like, oh, this is, again, you start to find value. People started to confide in me. People started to trust me and ask me questions. And again, I know the answers. I would love to be able to turn around and apply them to myself, but I knew the answers, and I started to find my value again. And then I realized that the job I was doing, it was great. It's not a bad job, but it wasn't a job for me anymore. I wasn't where I needed to be. I needed to be back in the community. I needed to be back helping people. I needed to feel where I feel valued. And honestly, it was one of those, I had taken a promotion, and the job description and the job itself was great. Everyone was great. And I was absolutely miserable. I was, again, sitting at a desk, no contact with patients, all totally removed from, what I'm good at. So I found a position, and it's the one I'm in now, that has been an absolute blessing to me. I am now a community care coordinator for mental and behavioral health, solely based in the community. 4 hours in any direction, I can go and I can sit and talk. We can talk through things. We can connect you with resources in the community. It's been amazing for me and for others. So I strongly, strongly always push for people to just look into their community and see what's going on. What groups are helping. Get involved. It's good for you and the people you're helping.
Right. For wellness.
Yeah, that was a big turn for me.
Now, if we go back just one or two steps, when did you start having the migraines? And having, I'm saying, some medical issues that you actually were starting to affect your daily life. Because I know, since that I've known you, which we've known each other a few years now, is that I'm a migraine sufferer. But when I met you, I'm like, oh, her migraines are like times 1,000, to mine. And so when did you start finding out about that and that affecting you? And then when and why do you think it got to the level that it did? Because I know you had done multiple types of treatments.
Yes. I started getting like debilitating migraines a few weeks after we got home. And honestly, I went in and I was tested for a bunch of different exposures and things. They instantly thought I was exposed to something. And honestly, to this day, we don't know the true cause, but I feel like I know a lot of it was stress and anxiety, but it escalated very quickly after I got home. As I became very unhappy with work, and as I figured out, where I needed to be, I was hospitalized a few times. The migraines were terrible. They'd go for 8 to 10 days. I had lost so much weight when I first came home. Unintentional. It was, I'm 5'9". I was down to about 118 pounds, and I was on a 3,500 calorie diet. It was just, I just felt like I was constantly broken. Everything was just, I was fighting every day just to get up and convince myself to go to work and convince myself to stop in the ER after work if I could get through a full day and see if they could give me something for my migraine. It was just such a bad cycle. And actually that lasted for, a few years now. And I still...
Do they directly relate that to the post-traumatic stress disorder? Did those correlate together?
They are, to an extent. And part of it, and again, bless their hearts, there's nothing showing that it's any other physical tie. They've done food testing, exposure testing. They're not sure. So it's an easy link to assume it's, stress and anxiety that I get myself so worked up. And the struggle I have with that is that I feel like I can be having a good day. I can be having just a great day. And all of a sudden it'll just knock me on my butt. And I'm out for a few days and I can't understand why. I know I've been more stressed out than this. Why am I getting, a headache this bad? So it's not totally figured out. But one thing that I did find is part of the buildup of issues I had was I was over medicated. I was given a medication to treat my migraines, which caused the weight loss. Then they put me on a medication to help with the weight loss. Then everything had a side effect that had a medication to go with it. At one point I was on 8 different medications. it was just, it was too much. So I found a neurologist that backed me off of just about all of that. And it got to the point where I then, because of the medications, I was starting to actually like pass out, having like blackout symptoms, that I developed atrial tachycardia. So then I had a heart condition going on. So my neurologist was like, enough of all these medications. So he pulled me off everything. He put me on a beta blocker to help with my heart, and the beta blocker has some anti-anxiety, benefits. I am down to just that medication now. And one medication that I take when I actually, full-blown migraine medication. So that between the two and finding a job that I feel very valued and I work from home and then out in the community. So even when I have just a terrible headache, I can sit in the dark and still do my charting, and I can make a few phone calls. I can still feel valued even when I don't feel well, and feel like I got something out of my day, because part of it, I think I just spiraled. I'd have a headache. I'd stay home for the day. I'd feel terribly guilty because I missed work, that I'd be so sick and built up, the next day that I'd call in again. And it was just a continuous cycle. So I really did some soul searching and made some big decisions about, okay, stop chasing the money, start chasing what makes you feel better. And I found a company that I love. I love my job. I am off of all kinds of medications and on something pretty solid. And I really think, getting involved with the community and people in our community and helping them find resources it's just been so much better for me than I would have expected. I didn't think that was the answer,
Mm-hmm. And so in working, because obviously you work in the mental and behavioral health kind of world, so you're out there. When we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder as a whole, the type of symptoms that you had, it seemed like some of those things of you getting well are a little bit more not as common, as others. But what have you found are some big red flags for others with post-traumatic stress disorder?
So the biggest thing, and I again, I'm not a doctor. I won't, say any, but I can say that PTSD is such a broad diagnosis that often it's labeled to somebody that can tell the bad story. So the symptoms are, it can be the nightmares, it can be the anxiety, it can be for me, I still don't like crowds. I still am very aware of my surroundings, the hypervigilance, and those are all big common ones. I had terrible nightmares for a while that they don't seem to connect, but it all adds up to that list of, okay, all of these things are going on. I had the weight loss. It's, it can be weight gain, weight loss. It gets to the point where it's just any change in your mental health and you have this scenario, they'll diagnose you with PTSD.
Right. So sometimes you get put under that umbrella, and until they know more and until they dig a little deeper, you really don't know fine-tuning exactly for mental status, going on. To kind of direct you in the right area.
Which is why I struggled with the diagnosis too. Even when we were doing Finding Our Fairytale, I struggled a little bit with being a spokesperson for PTSD, because I'm going, I know people that have been through worse. I know people that have totally struggled more than me. I know somebody with a worse story, and I really can't stress enough that that's not what matters. It's how are you adjusting to a change? What in your life, is going on or has happened, or it's not even necessarily the situation. It's how do you feel? How are you feeling and adapting and adjusting? And if you're not, you're not. That's not something to beat yourself up about. I struggle with the diagnosis mainly because it is so broad. And we label it to people, that we expect, like soldiers and
people that have gone through horrific traumatic situations.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And it can be, but also to go off of that is that it doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't have to be that as an incident. This huge traumatic incident doesn't have to happen. You could have something just within your family that was just life altering, life changing, and you can't adapt to the new change.
Right.
That could cause this. And so, Margaret, that's why, I so much wanted to have you on. I mean, because you're very, very real. You know what I'm saying? You're going from many sides of it. We all do hear about, when we think of post-traumatic stress disorder, we think about this horrific incident that happened that gave this insult that now you're dealing with it forever. And yours is a little bit of a different twist, but it's the same struggle, of coming back and integrating and finding those things. Is there anything else that you would add for community resources that are right here? Now, we're in Wisconsin. Know that not everybody here that's watching, this is from Wisconsin. Is there any national organizations that you would really recommend, or foundations that you think do a great job at mental health, that of that are not right here? Or is there any right here in Wisconsin that you think, hey, if you are having some of these red flags, I would really recommend, that you just make a quick reach out, to this group organization that we maybe can tag in this video?
I'm a little biased because I've only really personally used like the vet center. Most organizations have vet centers, and a lot of people don't know to just look into what's going on in their community, be it food drives, volunteer groups. A group that I have to do a huge shout out for is the NAMI Motorcycle Club. They have a ton of chapters. But they do incredible work raising funds, giving out, they did like 9 Christmas meals to families last year. You can volunteer, you can donate, you can help out, but they're more than just a motorcycle club. They're doing big things for the community, and you can link up with them, you can talk to them about things. That's why I like the vet center too. You can walk in and you can talk to somebody. They're not gonna judge you. Right. You don't need to be your best friend or join anything. It's just, people are there to connect to you. So I know a lot of the veteran ones, like I said, Nom Nights have been great. Actually, they are doing a poker run for charity on June 28th. And then the Vet Center is another big one. Vet Center is linked with the VA, but they're separate. They're their own entity, so there's not that crossover. But as for civilian side, I don't know offhand any major ones. I just haven't had the opportunity to really link up with them.
Right. I know that NAMI is a big one, and I don't know if that's, national or just here in Wisconsin, but we will drop a couple resources definitely below, and you from the vet side and myself from maybe just the mental health, behavioral side as well.
Awesome.
For that. But I know, Margaret, a big thing for you that we spoke about, as well as we kind of wrote about a little bit, is just getting yourself re-engaged with things, finding a purpose sometimes for your pain that you're going through, and really putting that into good, positive value, as you were talking about. So I think that that's awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share tonight that we missed?
I don't think so. I'm really loving what you're doing, just reaching out to people and informing them of things like this. I just can't say enough to look into your community and see what's going on. It can be something so small, a quick volunteer. We've done the walks where you join a walk, you meet people as you're walking around, you're raising funds, you're doing something great. And at the end of the day, you feel good about what you did with your day. So I'm loving that you're reaching out to the community, and I love that we're giving people the opportunity to join and get involved with people that are struggling.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I want to make sure that I say to you, though, thank you for your service, because our world needs more like you. I mean, you are here. You guys are all protecting us. So I wanted to thank you for you and all the others in the armed forces for their service. And I wanted to thank you for taking the time out to spend the last 30 some minutes with us tonight. Below this live, we're going to drop a whole bunch of different resources and some Facebook pages and some events that are coming up. And, you know, I want you guys to just continue on this next 3 weeks. We're coming at this mental, you know, health area, like I said, in all different aspects. So tomorrow we are going to be featuring Dr. Garais. Again, she is going to be on. She is our naturopathic doctor out of Arizona, and she is going to be speaking a lot of mental health from that aspect as well. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. But I think the biggest thing is that we're all talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's the biggest thing here, is that we all need to start talking, and we all need to know that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out, you know, and ask for help. So on that note, thank you so much, Margaret, for being with us tonight. And if you guys want any more information about our YouTube tutorial videos, our podcast, or anything else, just head on over to onairadvocate.com and you can find all the answers there for that. Also, if you want to join our private group, you can just go to the top of this Facebook page, hit the visit group tab, and that will take you right over to our private page where we're having conversations daily. Thanks so much, Margaret, again.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great night, everybody.